Welcome to The New Next, a podcast that addresses current events and how they will impact the future. Co-hosted by the inquisitive public speaking champion, Mike McVeigh, and energy, economics, and technology expert, Matt Jensen. Join us as we explore all things energy, economic, tech, and political, and how they will affect our future. That is the kind of stuff that Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cardone specifically push, that if everybody did this, everybody would be millionaires or everybody would be billionaires. And,
Just looking realistically at our economy right now, we're in a deficit of over 4 million single family homes. So that's a good example of there's not enough people out there basically offering housing opportunities for people. So I think, kind of what I say, I think still goes, is that there's not enough people basically providing quality homes for people to live in the United States. And if there's more capacity on the market, more supply, then prices are going to go down for consumers too, theoretically.
I don't have any statistics to back up one way or the other. I trust you, so I'm not going to fight that. Do we know how many homeless we have in America? Offhand?
I think there's like 70,000 in California. There's probably like 2 million, maybe max. Far less than 1%.
And you're saying right now that there's 4 million families or 4 million individuals as a whole in the United States that do not have access to housing.
There's a deficit of economists generally have said that there's a deficit of approximately 4 million homes, single family homes that should be in the market if the market is balanced for buyers and sellers, basically to meet demand. So there's a demand of 4 million homes in the U.S. of people who historically would be buyers of homes.
What's the definition of single family home?
That's like not an apartment. So multifamily is like townhomes and apartment homes and stuff like that. Okay. Single family homes is like a starter home.
So I heard you disagree with the metric then.
What?
Because I don't think everybody needs to be in a single family home. I think that's a weird dream. That's not even accurate to the American people as a whole.
Yeah, but that's what the demand is. So there's 4 million people in the U.S. that there's basically assumed that supply demand imbalance in the market for single family homes in the U.S. is approximately 4 million. So if 4 million more homes in the U.S. were available in certain markets, then the market would be in balance.
And we're talking about for renting or for buying?
For buying.
Okay. So again, that's where I start having some trouble with the math, because I'm just thinking math wise of how many people actually want to buy homes versus being okay with renting or being in multi home kind of things. I don't.
Well, if the market's in balance, there's more supply and demand meet. So that means that prices are lower, interest rates are lower, and stuff like that. So basically they're saying because there's less supply, prices have been really high. And it's also pushing up rental prices too, because there's just not enough ability.
That almost feels manufactured though to me, because it's not like they're out there trying to build homes as much right now as there were. I'm not saying that they aren't building any homes. I'm not. I mean, and also when you,
it's very market dependent. So like
this also kind of supports my theory though. So if my friend wants to become a landlord and he continues to buy houses and he doesn't have a problem paying the rate because he has the money to do so. So every house he has over the one that he's currently living in, he's also creating where it's difficult for those single families to have homes. Unless I'm missing something, because if he's refusing to sell and he's only going to rent and he rents at a high price, so my family needs a home, well, we can't buy it from him. The amount that they're asking for is still less than what it would cost for me to get a mortgage for the houses that are for sale. He's causing a stunt in I don't know what the right term is, but he's causing an issue where I can't get a single family home. So it's not so much that there's not availability of homes. It's, if you own 20 properties, you're basically, and you refuse to sell, you're only going to rent or lease, you're keeping 19 families from having the opportunity to buy a home.
Well, so think about this. There's 4 million families that want to transition from apartment buildings into houses.
Or from rental to buying.
Yeah, but just to simplify it, from apartment to houses. So they're basically kind of like stuck in tight living quarters, sometimes having multifamilies living in a single apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's on basically in recent years with a lot of, like I assume it's a lot related to the baby boomers aging and being so wealthy and buying larger homes and stuff. But, the McMansions are the ones where you earn a lot of your income on for builders. And then there's also a lot of rules. So like, Norman, for instance, has a lot more housing rules based on how you have to build the housing and houses and stuff like
mm-hmm.
that than stuff outside the city. So it adds a lot of like cost to the home for just kind of like little stuff, like, additional materials to go under the roof, for instance. And so if every house that you build instantly costs $50,000, then it's a lot easier to spread that $50,000 over a $500,000 house than one that's worth $100,000.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with all that.
So there's a bunch of, I would say, like incentives out there that aren't really. It's easy to blame builders for not building, but they're basically self-interested, and they're going where they can make profits based on the current kind of regulatory environment.
I would take it even further. I'm not going to blame the builders. I'm going to blame the people who own multiple single home properties that, again, refuse to sell those properties because they can make more money renting. And understanding, I understand that's their property and whatever, but that's part of my argument from the beginning, is that if everybody's doing this, if real estate is the best way to establish wealth, then I'm not even disagreeing with that statement. But the problem is that it's like I have an oil well in my backyard, and I'm the only one that has an oil well. I just was lucky. That's fine. But then I find out that there's an oil well across the street in someone else's yard, or that there's oil there. So I buy their house so no one else has the opportunity to do that. And then I'm buying all the houses that have the oil wells or have the properties that have these things. And I understand that that's how the market works and all that stuff. But because of that, it's also creating it's taking away the opportunity for more people to have those single family homes. So
I don't really, if I was going to approach it from a place, I think, to solve the imbalance right now, I would approach it from not what we're talking about. So we've talked previously about the short-term rental market, and that's basically about 4 million, approximately 4 million single-family homes and apartments in the U.S. That the way that market works is you're basically renting out. So say that I buy a house and it costs $3,000 a month. Right. It costs me $3,000 a month. So that means that it costs me $100 a day in a 30-day month to basically have that. If I can rent that out on a short-term rental for like $255 or $200 a day, I only have to rent that out on a short-term rental site 15 days a month to basically have all my costs covered essentially on it. So,
right. Assuming that the cost stays stagnant, but yeah.
Yeah. So in these markets like New York and all over the country that people historically stayed in hotels, they're staying in homes now, displacing families that would normally be living there. And if you're talking about the utilization of housing assets, so you and I live in our primary homes. Let's just assume we live in our primary homes 100% of the time. If I were to own two homes and and live in my home 100% of the time and live in the other home 0% of the time, basically I'm taking that house totally off the market for a family. Right. So say a family would live in there, but now they're not. Say I turn that into a short-term rental where that's rented out 50% of the time. So if you just look at whether that's occupied, that should be occupied 100% of the time, but it's only being occupied 50% of the time. So, there's I
agree with,
this mass underutilization because there's these homes that are only occupied occasionally, but are still making more money than the mortgage because they're in premium markets. But like you talked about earlier and kind of like these lower, so I think the best opportunity to make money on housing investments is buy houses that are kind of nice, are close to downtowns, but are kind of in, like a bad neighborhood, but the nicest house on the street, not a place where you're going to get shot or anything. But if you're able to, essentially pay $50 a day for your carrying cost for a house and rent it out for $200 or $300 or $400 because of the location close to things, like being right. walking distance or stuff like that, then that's where I see a lot of these starter homes and stuff going. And that's where I see more of the dislocation in the market. And then you're also, pulling out all these jobs for kind of, I would say, lower wage laborers that usually work at the hotels and stuff. So like the hotel councils have really have pushed back on these short-term rentals because they're displacing people, but they're also basically pulling out supply out of the market that would be normally there for single family homes, like people, starting a family and stuff, couples and stuff that are trying to move out from apartments. So,
so I don't disagree with anything you just said. So then I'm asking, if the purpose is to make money off of real estate, we need to at least acknowledge that can also make it more difficult for single families to own homes.
Well, I think people typically focus on the wrong part of the market. So there's like some of these markets that have come out, just popped out of nowhere in recent years and have pulled out so much capacity from the market. And then you also have these big private equity players that have come in and are buying like, you know, tons of homes, like entire like developments at a time. So when that money is there basically displacing other people, or they can pay, you know, since their economics are different, they're basically renting it out for all this money. Like they can afford to pay 50% more than someone that's going to live there full time and still make money on it.
Right. So, I mean, but that goes to what my even I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying though, it seems like you can't have both. You can't have these 4 million single family homes that are owned, not leased or rented, and be able to make money investing in real estate. Like one of those is going to have to go down, and if not, that's where I'm trying to see the difference. Whether it's a corporation or it's a small group. If I buy a second house, no matter what I do with that second house, that's keeping a single family to buy that home on their own.
Well, so we're not building enough starter homes in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not a pathway to get in there for a lot of people. And there's a bunch of different factors in between that. But I'm just saying that here's one thing that didn't exist years ago that kind of came out of nowhere and added so much more demand in the market that pulled out supply for traditional people that are just trying to live in a home.
Right.
That it accentuated a lot of these kind of long-term market trends. So you're basically like, you know, you used to have five people competing for a house that were all, you know, families that were maybe 5 or 10 years out of college that were buying their first home in a major city and were having a kid or their second kid, right?
Right.
And they're doing that. There used to be 5 of those people. Now there's 5 of those people that have to finance it. And then there's 5 other people who are in there for investment sort of stuff that are usually cash buyers. And those people are always going to be more appealing and be able to pay more. Whether or not they're going to do it is a different story, but they're always going to be more appealing and probably pay more. And that's going to be, you know, likely your best deal for a seller of the home. So
I guess that, to me, that just says, but that doesn't go against anything I've said.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. That's I wanted an acknowledgement that I'm not going crazy on my side of what I'm saying. I completely, I understand what you're saying. I
just think the problem, we agree on it. I just think the problem, I think the problem's a little bit different than my interpretation of what you think the problem is.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that as well. If you would like to learn more about the New Next podcast, find us at thenewnextpodcast.com, where you can suggest a topic you would like for us to cover. If you enjoyed what you heard, share the podcast, tell a friend about it, or rate us with 5 stars.